Welcome everyone to my response to some outrageous comments we got. Well, but all joking aside, we got a lot of good comments on the master plan to end death. We also got some good comments on the next video, the part 3, Pioneer Capital. This is not the topic for this video. I'm going to respond to your comments to the most interesting and controversial for the master plan to end death. Now, why am I doing this? I'm on a mission here to make this happen, to build the future of health. And I learned in these long years, 9 years so far with QuantGene and building these new genomics and medical intelligence systems, that all the great ideas, even great teams, and even some capital will not change healthcare if there is not a strong community, similar to the Tesla community, that stands behind these efforts. And I know it's tremendously difficult to build a community because it's built around trust, communication, and not top-down, but bidirectional communications, especially in healthcare. And I want you to know that I deeply appreciate all of you and your comments, even the critical ones, even the outrageous ones, as long as they're respectful and try to move the needle. I want to build an environment where we provide full transparency into what we are planning here and full input from your side so we can react to that and truly make sure everyone's voice is heard and every good idea, most importantly, is incorporated into our strategy. Every master plan has to have some flexibility built in to continuously learn. And we all can learn this also from Elon. I remember this one video where he's like with this everyday astronaut YouTuber at SpaceX, and the YouTuber says something that Elon didn't think of. And then while he was on video, Elon changed his mind. It's like, wow, that's a very good idea. We will change the engines. Well, the gas thing. I think that's the spirit, and we can learn from that, and we will learn from that. And let me jump into your comments here. Before I do, if you're new to this, let me very quickly repeat the master plan to end death, part 1. So part 1 is very simple. We work on a bunch of principles that are changing medicine. The most important principle, medicine turns from a reactive science and reactive discipline where we wait until we are sick and then do something and try to fix something, towards a universal detection and prevention discipline. That is not actually happening right now, but QuantGene and the master plan are geared towards that goal, because we know the top 4 killers of people in the Western world are the 4 big chronic diseases. And these chronic diseases, cancer, cardiovascular, neurodegenerative, and metabolic, cannot be cured, or it's incredibly difficult to cure them. It's also stupid to try to cure them if we can prevent them. And we know that prevention is much easier, and prevention has something to do with universal early detection, with universal medical intelligence, so we can see signals much, much earlier than we can do now. And the next paradigm is that we will need hospitals and large healthcare systems to play with us in rolling this out. And we can't do this in total isolation because patients are used to the healthcare systems. So we are doing something very new outside the system, but we have to learn how to partner up with the big infrastructures to actually get to scale quickly. And the topic of insurance will come up in your comments. How do we deal with insurance if insurance clearly will not pay for this initially because it will be too expensive for insurance? The master plan to make this happen is very simple and straightforward. We start with a universal cancer detection system that we already developed and that exists, that QuantGene actually developed, where we unified a lot of precision medicine technologies in genomics, in precision imaging, and in data and cloud systems into a universal solution. And it's important that many of these technologies were not developed by QuantGene, but by other great companies. And our mission is to bring them all together and make them feasible. And the first step of the master plan is create a solution that costs less than $400 a month in the first instance, and is a universal cancer detection system that then quickly can show that we effectively defeated cancer. And we already see that we are doing that in clinical trials. The next step is to expand that system of universal detection beyond cancer into all 4 big categories, which is actually not that hard once you crack the cancer problem, and bring the price down below $200 a month, because it's a very important inflection point, it becomes much more accessible. And then in the third and final step, bring the price down below $100 a month, so it becomes universally accessible to all people, and weave in insurance, because then you're hitting a price point where insurance becomes a potential option. That is the master plan. We know from clinical data and our experiences that this is a very feasible master plan and that it is the only plan to truly defeat death for now, to push the average lifespan out 10 years, right? From 78 to 88 or 90. Because if you defeat and early detect these 4 categories, the average lifespan goes up roughly 10 years. So that's our first mission. That's part 1 of the master plan. Defeat death at least for 10 more years in average. Now let's jump into your comments. I love your comments. I don't go into every single comment, but I will go through a lot of them because a lot of them were very interesting. And we start with Ricardo Pereira, who says, Joe, the only way this master plan could work in the initial phase is getting the health insurance companies involved. They are the ones with the possibility of big savings if they can avoid paying for a cancer treatment. You should tailor fit your product to this market. Well, Ricardo, thanks for your input. I would push back on this to some extent, but you're also right to another extent. I think eventually we need health insurance. We had many conversations with health insurance companies. The problem is at a $400 a month or nearly $5,000 a year price point, they are just not interested. Unless you go to health insurances that are focused on executive health, which exist. So health insurance is not a black or white thing. The health insurance understands the clinical data we have. They recognize them, but if the price is so high, they say, well, it's just not working financially, economically for us. And this is not a black or white thing, right? The health insurance might say for higher risk, people who are at higher risk, the formula becomes different. They will also say for people who pay a lot of premium because they're executive health insurances, they are interested. So the master plan works in these 3 steps: $400 a month, $200 a month, sub $100 a month. And at each instance, we unlock a whole new universe of health insurance options. So I think you're not correct saying we should start with health insurance. I think we should not start with health insurance, but with self-payers and executive health, where the price problem is not that high in the initial phase. But you're also right that this cannot happen in isolation. Both hospital systems and health insurance systems need to be woven in as early as possible to make this work. But thanks for your comment. That's very interesting. I hope you comment more and share more of your thoughts. The next 2 comments are from Voti Recon. And Voti Recon says, well, I start with your second one. I'd get on the phone with Elon if I were you. Sure, that's a very good comment. I will give Elon a ring. Let's see what he says. I think he's very busy, so it's hard to talk to him. I actually met Elon once in 2014 or something. We had a quick chat. It was an event. Elon is not easy to talk to if he's randomly on an event. He just talked about Mars, which is fine. It's his mission. But it's very hard to make Elon pay attention to something outside his scope. That's why we love him. He's very focused. But I'm sure over time he gets interested in this. Your second comment, Voti Recon, is the following. There's a whole heap of battles coming up. Huge established industries who are existing quite comfortably by profiting off the human race, thank you very much, aren't terribly keen on being disrupted. So Voti Recon, probably you talk about pharma and people like that. Also, do we ultimately benefit from living longer? I thought we needed more babies. That's probably cheaper and easier to organize. So your comment has 2 pieces of it. What about the problems and battles, the incumbents that are profiting off us being so sick? Okay. And the second part is, what about babies? Do we even want to live longer? Don't we need more babies? If you have more babies, you don't need to live longer. Well, this to the second part. Number 1, I think, yes, we should live longer. We don't have enough humans. If you don't die as much and you have a longer, healthy lifespan, you have more people per time. But to your point, of course, we need more babies. I'm all for babies. We should have way more babies. So everyone have babies. But to your point, what do you reckon? That's probably cheaper and easier to organize the babies. I definitely disagree. I think having more babies is one of the most complicated and difficult things to achieve. That's a whole different master plan. How do we create more babies? because you have to solve relationships, you have to solve love, you have to some extent solve a lot of societal problems to make people get together again and have babies. It's an absolutely non-trivial problem. But I agree, I'm all for it. This is a very important piece of a different plan that we definitely need. But that is not in conflict with living longer. I think we need both. Way more babies, way more lifespan, then you solve the population decline problem. To your first point, yes, there are many battles coming up, but here's my point. Occam's razor. Is there a problem with incumbents trying to stop us? The bottom line is not really. Incumbents, in my experience, don't actively try to stop us. They're just deeply uninterested in making anything happen. So if you go to pharma, they're not going to fund an early detection company, obviously. They're not going to fund preventative medicine because it's just not their business and, they don't like it too much. But there are ways of actually working with pharma. Genomic information can help them discover new drugs. That's what they want. And that allows us potentially to, generate a lot of additional revenue where we can, share anonymized aggregate data, not specific patient data, of course. That's sacred at Quanjin, and we'll never share that. But general insights that can help pharma develop more precise drugs, and that will generate money that we can use to actually push the master plan forward. So similar to working with health insurance and hospitals, there's always ways to work together, and we just have to stick to the master plan and make it happen. And every revenue that comes in is good. So I do not think there's a systematic approach to stop us. Maybe in the future, but not now. People are just not doing the right thing and are getting distracted trying to make more money with their outdated business models. Okay, the next comment. Amy Niemann. She says, I think diet and our food, the food we eat, is a huge cause for concern. Also environment, there are chemicals which poison us everywhere. Your ideas are good. Well, thank you, Amy. This is an interesting argument that I come across a lot with the master plan. The master plan I'm outlining has to do with medical intelligence, early detection, and systematic prevention. And a lot of people argue that's not that important. Early detection, we need to focus on food, lifestyle, and being healthy so we don't get sick in the first place. Obviously, I completely agree. I did a video on how to live to 100, and that has all to do with food and exercise and supply chains and making sure, you're not poisoning yourself. And what we shouldn't forget is that you still need systems of medical intelligence and early detection, because even if you have the most perfect life, you can get cancer. We have to be very aware of that. There is no proven model to prevent cancer from happening. The only proven model is you can minimize your risk and you can detect it early. That's the best bet for cancer. Okay, now we get to Real Radneck. That's a great name. So Real Radneck, an outrageous comment. That's why I called it outrageous, but in a good way. I think Real Radneck, thank you for your comment. So Real Radneck says, your idea, master plan to end death, is just as ludicrous as saying master plan to end gravity. I'm all for everyone getting healthy and taking care of our bodies to extend life, but there are two reasons why death will never end. The first is spiritual and the second is scientific. Stick with me if you're open-minded enough to stretch your mind a little. Yes, Real Redneck, I'm open-minded, very open-minded. Number one, Real Redneck says, read Genesis 3, and you will find that the physical earth is cursed because of sin. Death is the door we will pass through one day into eternity, and the scripture has an answer to getting ready for that day. His name is Jesus. Don't persecute Christians. Faith is needed more than ever before. And so on. I will go into that. The second piece, he says, the second law of thermodynamics is a proven scientific law, still empirically verifiable today. Your body at 50 is living proof of this law when measured against your body at 20. That's true. In fact, the scientific law just confirms the reality of Genesis 3. Heat turns to cold, cold never heats up. Order tends towards chaos, order never arises from chaos unless someone is there to organize it. Life decays and dies unless there is some exterior power source to sustain. Okay, let's go. You make two arguments, one spiritual, one scientific. Let me start with the scientific one. Here I push back pretty hard. You're basically implying life is inherently, designed to die and to decay. That sounds reasonable, but that's actually not true. I will tell you just 3 examples from biology, 3 creatures that are immortal. The first one is the planarian worm. You maybe have heard of it. The planarian worms can regenerate themselves if you split them in 2, and they have been known since the late 19th century, and these little worms live forever. They just, copy their little stem cells continuously, and there's no problem. The second one is the Hydra. Not to be confused with Captain America's evil Hydra guy. The Hydra is an alien-looking creature in freshwater, and it's in freshwater invertebrate with a tubular body and tentacles around its mouth. It looks very creepy. Also, immortal. The Hydra lives forever. The Hydra only dies if you destroy it, but if you don't destroy it, it lives on and on and on by replicating its cells. And then we have the immortal jellyfish, number 3, the so-called immortal jellyfish. Turritopsis dormii lives in marine waters and is this little jellyfish that also keeps on living. So the bottom line is death is an artificially programmed thing, a clock in our body that's known by now. So death is actually something that you need to artificially instill in creatures in order to make them die. You want to make them die from an evolutionary perspective so the species can adapt to new environments. You want to kill off the old guys, have the young guys come in so the mutations can take care of adapting, right? And if you wouldn't do that, our species probably would look very bad and wouldn't exist. But as individuals, we want to extend our lifespan. That's a long philosophical story, but biologically, clearly we don't have to die if we knock out the clock. Now, I'm not saying it's easy. And the master plan is only part 1. The master plan I'm outlining can expand our lifespan by basically 10 years, maybe 20 years, and then you hit a wall at 100. And in order to solve that wall, we need to do different things from what I outlined in the first master plan. But first, we have to get there. If you die of cancer or cardiovascular disease before, you don't need the fancy stuff. You can extend the healthy human lifespan to probably 90 or 100 to 95 by just preventing and detecting all diseases early stage. And then you have to knock out the clock. Okay, to the spiritual argument, most of you probably think I'm just pushing back and say this is all Jesus talk. I don't want to discuss the Bible here. But I disagree. I think we should discuss the Bible. I think I like Christian theology. I think it's very interesting. I think there is a spiritual argument to be made, even a Christian argument, why we should pursue the end of death. And that argument is that Christians believe that humans were designed and created in the image of God. And what is the central quality of that divine spark in humans is the spark of creation, that we can create. And that gives us the right, maybe the duty, to create and change the universe around us in our image. I think that is actually wanted. That's clearly implied by the Christian theology. And that includes defeating, disease and death as long as we can, using our creativity, our imagination, our logic, our science to actually do something about it. Not from a inner posture of arrogance or something, but from an inner posture of creation and protection of human life. So I think it's very justifiable to work on life extension and work on the defeat of death as long as we can, as effective as we can, also as Christians. So I'm pushing back on that argument that because of that we shouldn't pursue that. Okay, but thank you, Real Redneck, for your comments. I hope you keep commenting. I'm thankful for your perspective. Then we have Jay Crossland, 8265. And Jay Crossland says, you're describing a plan to replace our current sickness system with a true health system. If you go to the doctors today, the GP has a couple of minutes to talk to you, diagnose the issue, come up with a pill that eases the symptoms, and then write a script and also do administration required so the practice gets paid. There's simply no time to investigate the underlying cause of the problem, let alone come up with a plan to solve it. It is simply symptomatic relief only. This plan, however overly ambitious it is a way overhauling the current broken system. Brilliant. Thank you so much for this comment, Jay Crossland. I think that's absolutely true. I think the current system puts physicians and patients in a terrible position where, the physicians are under so much pressure to do the stupid administration, and every physician I know complains about that and says, I have to waste all my time to trying to get paid. I don't have time for my patients. Also, we have these care algorithms that force me to do things I don't even believe in. And we have to absolutely change the system. And a preventative system that we are building here and envisioning will change the system, because once you're focusing on early detection and prevention and real-time monitoring of your health and introduce much more medical intelligence systems centralized, it means you have much better protection, much early detection, much better guiding systems for the physician, and much more time, because so much can be automated here. So the physician can actually think about things. Also, we will massively decrease the amount of sick people, which grants then more time to the physician. In addition, these preventative systems allow us to change the economics of everything, because now you don't need insurance anymore, technically. I will go into this in a different video, because insurance is inherently designed for catastrophic risk. But if everything becomes systematic prevention, we are much more talking about plannable expense. You just have a subscription every month that takes care that you're never really getting sick. And at that moment, you probably don't need an insurance anymore. You need something different. So you're absolutely right. We need to reinvent the system. But we already did reinvent the system, because these preventative precision care systems can be applied very differently. We just need to keep prototyping this and learning with self-payers outside insurance what the best economics are and how physicians and patients are the happiest. And we are making great progress there. But that is the future of medicine, not reactive care, strategic prevention, where everyone has enough time, data, and intelligence to prevent death. Next one up is Tom Jones. We have 2 more to go. Here's the second to last. Tom Jones. Most of the healthcare industry these days is all about profit, not keeping people healthy. In fact, the pharma industry is almost the opposite. It prefers steering towards having unhealthy people on permanent medications. An example, there's a cheap injection used to reduce the symptoms of arthritis in older cats and dogs with no side effects. It cannot get FDA approval for use in humans. Why, you may ask? Amazing. My mind is blown by your comments, guys. Like, this is very deep inside. That's why I love YouTube. That's why I believe the future of investing is retail investors. The future of healthcare is driven by you guys. People are much smarter, or there are many more smart people out there than the so-called experts think. I think Tom Jones is totally on the money, unfortunately. Obviously, if you put yourself into the shoes of pharma, what is the best possible drug? The best possible drug is a drug that everyone needs and that never cures anyone. Ozempic, for example. Right? Everyone is obese. Everyone needs the obesity drug. But if you stop taking it, you get obese again. That's a dream scenario for pharma, as we can see, but it's a nightmare scenario for patients. Same with vaccines, by the way. I don't want to be controversial here. I'm just outlining the economics of vaccinations. Vaccinations are so enticing to pharma because everyone needs to get vaccinated. So you have a drug here that everyone needs. By definition, you don't even need to get sick. That's why there is a problem, a moral hazard in the vaccination business model, because you want to have more and more diseases with vaccinations that are required for the entire population from an economics perspective. Not great. But here, why I would want to push back a little bit on the on the implications of Tom Jones. You're totally right, Tom. But what are the implications? I don't want to, I don't want to support any kind of defeatism here. Just because there are some very big corporations and very big government agencies that clearly have different interests in mind than our interests, doesn't mean we are defeated. It means we should take charge of what we are doing. We should rally behind master plans that actually do the right thing. It doesn't even help us, to rile against the big pharma guys or the FDA or something. What we need to do is come up with a better proposal and start building these new systems. No one stops us from doing that other than ourselves. We can build a new healthcare system. No one stops us. We just have to raise some capital, have some great master plan, spread the word, and build a community. Because the same arguments you're bringing here could be applied to Tesla. Do you think anyone, was friendly towards Tesla? Do you think the established auto industry liked Tesla? No. Do you think the administration and the government liked Tesla? No, everyone was against Tesla. Tesla still won. Because in the end, these guys are not here to stop us. These guys are there to make their money in their ways. So it's up to us to make a difference here. Last comment for today. Dave Oatway, 6126. The most important is a visionary who has credibility and resources is the most important first requirement. You are arguing from current states. The first principle was what made Tesla successful. So I think what Dave is implying here, what he means is we need a great visionary who has credibility and resources. Well, I outlined that with the secret of Tesla, that Elon was actually also the first capital provider. But I push back, Dave, on your point that I'm arguing from current states and not first principles. That's definitely wrong. If you look at my master plan, that's definitely not the current state, and that's definitely full on the first principles of the future of healthcare. So I'm pretty sure about that. If you have better first principles, let me know in the comments. Or on X, even better. Then we can go back and forth. So I believe we are on a very good path here. We have the first principles under control. I think very well under control. And the argument that we need someone who is visionary, has the master plan, has already credibility and resources, that's a little bit over the top. Because if we wait for that guy to come along, we will be here in a million years and nothing happened. You have to see that as a Venn diagram, right? You need a pioneer, you need a visionary, you need a master plan, you need a community, you need pioneer capital, and you need credibility. If you have all of that together, you win. But you will never have all these things together because not even Elon had credibility in the beginning. No one believed him. He had no track record of anything. So you need to start somewhere in a subset of these circles. You can't start in the middle of the Venn diagram. You have to start somewhere. And I think we have a great master plan. I have a lot of skin in the game and commitment here on making this happen. You guys are already interested. So we're building this up over time. And I think no one can really stop us. Thank you so much for giving all these comments. I love it. I think it's amazing that we can have these conversations, and I will keep doing this. So if you comment on X is easier for me to handle than YouTube because I see it more and people can jump in. But whatever is best for you. So keep, with me on the master plan and the path forward. Share your thoughts and also spread the word and share these videos with other people and invite them to take part in the conversation. I think this way we can really make a difference and it's going to be awesome. The future of health is here and the master plan to defeat death, thanks to your outrageous comments, has progressed a little step further. Thank you so much and see you very soon.